In this lesson, you'll explore breakdowns, stalling, and failures in the negotiation and conflict resolution process. You'll learn to identify common reasons for breakdowns, how to avoid these problems, and how you can turn around a negotiation or conversation that's heading towards a breakdown. If you want to rebuild trust, realign perceptions, overcome intransigence, restore face, and adapt to changed social contexts, you need situational awareness. You must be attuned to the context, and you must have patience and calm assertiveness so you can regroup, diagnose what might have gone wrong, take 2 steps back, and see if you can persuade your counterpart to join you in this diagnosis. Then you can collaboratively diagnose why the conversation may have taken a turn for the worse. This process diagnosis is a step toward rebuilding trust and momentum. The breakdown of trust between parties is one of the most common reasons why negotiations break down and fail. When trust breaks down, it can also be one of the most difficult issues to overcome. The categorization of trust in negotiation by Lewicki and Bunker can help you understand the different levels of trust and how to rebuild it when it's breaking down. According to the authors, the highest form of trust is identification-based trust. We trust our counterparts because we identify with them. We've internalized each other's wants and needs. For example, long-term friends or partners often see the other person as something of an extension of themselves. With their common values and aspirations, it's almost as if their paths in business or in life are interdependent. To betray that person is to betray yourself. The second type of trust is knowledge-based trust. And here we trust our counterparts because we know them and we can predict their behavior from our long history of working together. Long-term colleagues are a bit like this. So, for example, the partnership of Herb Kelleher and his deputy Colleen Barrett from Southwest Airlines is a really good example. When you work successfully with someone for 30 or 40 years, you can predict their behavior and you learn to trust them, even at times where their decisions may seem left of field. And the weakest form of trust, according to the authors, is what they call deterrence-based trust. We trust our partner because we know they fear the consequences if they breach our trust. For example, the largest licensing companies in the world grant rights to their intellectual property as a cornerstone of their expansion. But they do so under strict copyright rules. Take, for example, Disney, which has developed a fearsome reputation for going to great lengths to protect their intellectual property. They've sued schools for the use of Spider-Man and Mary Poppins in a school musical, and even threatened to sue a daycare centre. When Disney issues a license for the use of their brand, they do so knowing that their licensees are probably going to keep within the rules of the agreement because of their reputation. Lewicki and Bunker's framework goes some way to explaining how trust forms in negotiation. The famous author Stephen Covey has a great metaphor about trust using a concept he called the emotional bank account. Picture one of your very close work associates. You've had a long and fruitful relationship lasting many years with that person. This relationship has what Covey would call a healthy emotional bank account. If this very close associate does let you down, it isn't the end of the relationship because the emotional bank balance is high. You can look past a single or perhaps even several withdrawals from the account and still be trusting of this person. Negotiation breakdowns can also be caused by judgments that are based on biased positions or a biased mindset. Checking for accuracy is key in these situations. There's a great training exercise which often used in workshops which illustrates this point well. Participants are shown an image of 2 women. An old woman in a fur coat is in a profile view. She has a horizontal line for her mouth, and her nose is just above that, and her eyes just below her black hair. A young woman is seen from behind, looking away from the viewer. Her necklace is the old woman's mouth. Her chin is the old woman's nose, and her ear is the old woman's eyes. The participants are told what to look for and become convinced that they've been given incorrect information because it doesn't match what they can see. The facilitator changes the image to bring the second woman into sharper focus. The participants then see how easily perceptions are shaped by others. Perception tests reveal that when presented with the same set of facts, people often see and hear vastly different things. As Diamond reveals, your facts are invisible to your counterpart. As negotiators, you must solve the everyday occurrence of others seeing things differently to you. Diamond suggests these 3 reflective questions to aid you in this process. Number 1, what am I perceiving? Number 2, what are they perceiving? And number 3, is there a mismatch? If so, why? Checking for misperception is an opportunity for better communication. It means you're open to appreciating that others see things differently to you, and you're aware that it doesn't matter who is right. This is an important realization for many when negotiating and resolving conflict. Another type of negotiation breakdown is caused by intransigence or inflexibility, and this presents in 2 forms. The first is in a negotiation style we call positional bargaining or hardball negotiation. This type of negotiator won't agree to anything. They will state a position in the form of a set of demands or conditions and refuse to yield. With such a one-sided attitude, these negotiators are rarely successful unless they have a resource monopoly along with legitimate power or vested authority. The second is quite a reasonable type of behaviour, identified by Fels as standing firm. If a particular point is one that has to be included in an agreement for it to be workable for you, then it's important that you state that point firmly and clearly explain the reasons for your firmness. To successfully open conversations about interests rather than positions, you should ask why or why not questions. There is a skill to doing so in a non-confrontational way. By asking someone, for example, to explain the reasons behind their position, to share their interests and provide more information with the aim of you jointly developing alternative options, ones that take more of each party's interests into account. We'll return to the loss of face in week 5. For now, though, let's know that it is a form of profound embarrassment or even shame due to a perceived loss of status. It's typically associated with Asian business, yet it's also understood and applied to all type of human interactions. It can be difficult to know you've caused an important person to lose face if you're not attuned to situations where this could occur. Another type of reason why negotiations break down is when the social context changes. Negotiations don't happen in a social vacuum and are rarely compartmentalized from outside events. When the operating environment changes, it can significantly impact the preconditions or assumptions on which negotiation opportunities rest. To give some examples of how the social context changes, think of what happens when there's a government change after a national election, where there's a change in technology, an update to a regulatory process, new laws or reporting requirements. Such changes represent significant disruption to many negotiations, changing the game completely at times and causing negotiators to rethink their earlier assumptions of how value can be created. At the end of the previous 2 videos, you thought about a conflict you'd had in the past few weeks. Thinking about that a little further, did you experience any of the breakdowns discussed in this lesson? And what could you do to turn those breakdowns around?